Picture this. You walk into the library of an English professor's home, and as you make to walk out, you hear a squeal of delight. As you make to investigate the source of this noise, you bend down under the table and behold the gleaming eyes of a 6-year-old little girl. In her hands, George Orwell's Animal Farm. And Professor likely comes in at this point and says, yeah, that's my daughter, the bookworm. She'll probably become a writer someday. And decades later, this is me. I am that little girl. And I must confess, I still love books. My eyes shine, not just when I'm thinking of my husband, Obi, but whenever I drink in a good story. And I've had the time to ponder and reflect what mesmerizes me so much about books and stories, thousands and thousands of books later. And I've come to find out, regardless of the plot or the pace or wherever the story actually happened, the place, I found that the most memorable and relevant element of a story is actually the protagonist, the lead character. How many of you remember your best characters in your movies? Yeah. They never leave your mind. They become almost like a part of your life. And you wonder, what is it that makes someone the lead? How is it you know that someone is a lead? Because there's so many characters in the movie. And I want to tell you how. It is that one whose actions you watch with keen interest. That one whose circumstances leave you on the edge of your seat. And the one whose choices you question sometimes because you know you're on your couch watching them act and you're like, I could have done this better and they could have done that better. Well, this is the interesting part about it. Today we're talking about how to go from being a spectator to being a protagonist. And it is not so much about the books. I could tell you about thousands and thousands of them. But how is it that in our own lives we're going to embrace this role in the story of our own lives? So Theodore Roosevelt puts it best. He says, it is not the critic who counts. It is not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles. Neither is it the one who says how the doer of deeds could have done it better. The credit belongs to the man in the arena, striving valiantly. And that just puts it right? Because they don't always have it all together. But guess what? They will always show up, scene after scene after scene. But talking about the spectator, it's always fun for us to wear our sports paraphernalia, go to a stadium, watch people, yell, act like we're in the game, but we're not quite in the game. So who's a spectator? It is that one who has no stakes in the game. That one who can come in and step out at will. But guess what? Sometimes they know neither success nor significance in life's story. And in assessing this, you start to see, well, truth is the spectators live a life of comfort. They don't have any stake in the game, so no defeat, no victory either. That is enough for some people. However, for those that will change the world, it is not nearly enough. And today, how about we discuss how can we become these protagonists that I talk about? In my vocation as a fiction writer, as a leader, and as a coach, I've noticed 3 virtues that each person must have to move from outside the spotlight to center stage in their own lives. To not let circumstances just coast them along, but to be active participants beyond casual observers of their lives. And the 3 are as simple as ABC. However, I hope it'll be just as simple for you to apply it in your own life. A stands for agency. And agency is that sophisticated ability for a person to will and choose the circumstances of their lives and change it as they will, or at least try to change it. And B stands for boundaries. Boundaries are how we align with our deepest values and our beliefs. Boundaries are what we choose to say yes to and what we choose to say no to keep us on the course and to keep us aligned with the values that we live by. And C stands for conviction. Conviction, that deep seat within you, sometimes has become so enmeshed with you that it's now subconscious. It is the seat of your deepest desires and dreams. It is your mindset and the mental models by which you live. And, I noticed something about agency. Agency is that taking control of your life, not just waiting for things to happen. While boundaries is you aligning yourself. And conviction is the driving force that fuels all of this. Now, there's something called an inciting incident in literature. It happens at a point of moment of choice where things happen, an event that is catastrophic or wonderful, or a paradigm shift in your mind. And after that moment, the hero can't go back to the life that he lived before. In the hero's journey, it's called answering the call. At that moment, you're faced with the option of answering the call or actually devolving into worse circumstances, because truth is, status quo no longer holds. So I want to share with you how I applied this in my own life and have been making the move from spectator to protagonist. My inciting incident was in 2020. I was living a largely successful but somewhat mundane life. I had the Fortune 500 job, the handsome husband, beautiful kids with the proverbial American dream home, the two-car garage home to live in. But life was really just coasting alongside. You see, I had bought into the stereotypes of society that was saying, hey, be a wife and a wife only. Have these beautiful kids and be a mom only. Stay in your lane of engineering and be there only. But what about those dreams? Remember that dream of being a writer? I had shoved it so deep down within that it took the slowing down of 2020 to bring them back up in my heart. And I decided I wasn't going to be a casual spectator in my life anymore. I called it my year of why not if not, because it seemed like the world was going to end anyways. So I decided I was going to live out all the dreams I had ever had for myself. So the first one is agency. I started out, first of all, with speaking. 3 things I knew about myself in terms of conviction. I was born to write. I was born to speak. I was born to lead. And by golly, I was going to do those 3. So in that year, I started speaking on a podcast that I hosted about books and personal development. I was the first recipient of the impact of that work. And then I finally fulfilled my dream of being a writer. You see, I wrote in notebook after notebook, finishing ink of pen after pen, all 14 short stories in my best-selling book. And lastly, I went from being an individual contributor at work to actually leading and developing people, leading operations in one of the most volatile and uncertain times in corporate manufacturing America. What did I learn from all of these things? I learned that agency will help you own your power. Boundaries will help you find your voice, to say yes to the things you want to do, and to say no to the things you will no longer put up with, neither from yourself or other people. And then the third one, conviction. I learned that I could actually be all that I wanted to be. And that mindset got reinforced the more I acted on agency. And today, it's your turn. You're being cued on stage. George Orwell said, there's a hero in all of us waiting to be discovered. And are you ready to become a protagonist in your own life? Well, it's as simple as 1, 2, 3. Who heard the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3, right? Number 1, I would ask you to take some time out and take 5 minutes at the very least. Go write down on a sheet of paper your dreams and your desires. And number 2, write down 2 simple actions you can take to get there. Whether today or this week, this month, put some time to it. That is your agency. And number 3, write down 3 things you would say no to that can no longer be a part of your life going forward, that can impede the dream of who you know that you are becoming. And as you go on this journey, as you accomplish great feats, you will begin to see that you will not only face certain victory, you will face the challenges and the conflicts and sometimes your own character flaws. But remember that favorite actor or protagonist you were thinking about at first? Think about how they went through all of these themselves. And think about how they faced everything resiliently. And how you knew that even though you were at the edge of your seat, you knew that they would come out victorious, right? You knew that they wouldn't die. So the phrase that I've heard that puts it best, and as you go on your journey, I want you to remember this piece of Nigerian wisdom in Pidgin English. Actor, no they die. Thank you, heroes.